Good evening, everybody. I think you know what time it is. 7 p.m. Discover TV. What are we doing? Where Are They Now? It's our show. For those of you in the know, the ones that follow us, we bring you candid interviews with our legendary artists and music business people, local, international. All of them have contributed to the mosaic that is the backbone, of South Africa's music heritage. Here they share their journeys, their amazing experiences, and we are the witnesses to the lives very well lived. Tonight's guest is a fabulous woman that I happen to have known for maybe like 30 years or something ridiculous. I swear to you. Even worked with her back in the day and honored to have been able to do that. She is a musical powerhouse and has theatre cred like you don't believe. She was absolutely born for this. Talented, dedicated, sunny. I love that word. She's sunny. And she's smart as heck. Please welcome my stunning guest tonight, the lovely Ann Power.
Since the dawn of time, she's been fighting to survive. It's that most elusive of creatures, the self-sufficient, middle-aged, working actress.
I should have been playing that role. She stole it from me. The bitch. Well, honey, I ain't driving this days.
My Opa loves you, eh?
Fabulous.
Can that certain age look more like a certain age? If you know what I mean?
Que sera, sera. But I'm actually quite pissed off that at the age of 50 plus, I've got to actually cuck off to see how I can earn money.
Sorry, man.
Decline.
Usually theatre moms are supposed to be up behind you, pushing you all the way. Go, son, I want you to be the best. No, I want you to be the best behind me.
She's a maniac, maniac at that stage door.
Why are you shooting me? Oh no. You know, I was an A-lister, do you know?
Yes, 20 years ago, my darling.
Well, she's still on stage, and as long as you don't book in the first 8 rows, everything's fine.
Oh, you know, really.
Annie, you have lost so much weight.
Pity it's all in your chest. That is how you work out, my lovelies. And you're fabulous doing it.
Let's get physical, physical. I wanna get physical.
I can't move.
That's what Mark means.
Some say love, it is a razor. Then if you go, I'll understand. Leave me just enough love.
Oh, cut. Robert, cut that, please.
Whoa. Hold your horses. If that doesn't tell the damn story of the entertainment industry in one little video just like that, ain't that the truth, Ann?
Oh, it is so wonderful to be here with you this evening. And I must say that when I saw that trailer from 2014, I just went, oh my goodness, it brought back so many memories. It was just wonderful. So many special ladies and gentlemen, and my beautiful Dawn, who's no longer with us, and I miss her so much.
You know, we've sadly lost a lot of our people, and the divine thing about it, there is still so much footage. There is somewhere you can always go and find that you can look at that person again and say, I remember you doing that. You're a legend. You've got something on some medium. That's one of the things I love about technology, I must be honest, because it's be able to preserve our legacy in so many different ways, you know. that is such a beautiful video. I mean it sincerely. I know it's
Thank you.
bittersweet and it's clever and it's funny and all that stuff, but let's go right back to the beginning. What called you first? Was it music? Was it theater? Where did it all start for you?
Well, I must say, Cindy, that it was many, many years ago. I mean, right? Some people say they never know what they want to be when they grow up. Well, I always knew I wanted to be acting and singing. In the early days, it was never really rock singing, although that did grow into it along the way. But in the early days, I used to sit in front of my mirror and sing Liza Minnelli songs and think, oh, I'm going to be cabaret. Can you believe it? That was big when I was younger. So,
Nothing wrong with
crazy.
that. It's fine.
And then along the way, I got involved with music. I did jingles. I was singing. And at university, at Rhodes University, I was in the choir. Well, that wasn't where I really wanted to be, but at the same time, it was singing. And then when I finally got to Cape Town, where I grew up, and then met Tully McCulley, ex-McCulley's workshop, and then he said to me, right, Annie, let's do some jingles. And then he said, no, to hell with jingles. I'd like to actually record you. So we made quite a few singles, and we worked with Benji Moody, who was then working through Warner Brothers, and we released some records. In those days, they were records.
Records, honey.
Yeah, they were records. And it was actually fabulous. And then I came to Johannesburg because I was living in Cape Town, and I thought I'd love to go to Joburg because that was the big city.
The big smoke, yeah.
Yeah, that was the big city. So I thought, okay, fine. And then Des and Dawn Lindbergh came down to Cape Town to audition for the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. And that was, in those days, it was a frightening show. Meanwhile, today it would actually be a family show. And Judy Page was in it, Abigail Quebecer, Victor Melanie, and needless to say, the part that I played. And that's where, and Bo Peterson, all the old actors, well, old, they were all young then. Yes. And then, and that's where I met Bill Flynn. And we fell crazily in love. And then Des and Dawn always say to me, or used to say to me, if it wasn't for us, you would not have met Bill. And if it wasn't for you meeting Bill, you wouldn't have had Ryan. And now, if it wasn't for Ryan marrying his beautiful wife, Haley, I wouldn't have my little grandson, James. And now I've also got twins on the way. So, from having, I've got 2 little boys coming along at the end of July. So I'm going to be a granny of 3 babies. And no, they didn't plan the twins, but it's a blessing. They're coming.
It's an absolute blessing. Wow, darling. Yes, so you've got such legacy and history already. And it is those things, it's those serendipitous moments that come into our lives and make this go to this, to this, to this, as you said. And here you are all these years later. And you've got your twins coming, and it's beautiful.
I've got my twins. And I must say, so for me, show business, I just adored it. And then I got so involved with singing. I also did a lot of straight theater because I really wanted to be this major actress. So I love my Shakespeare, T.S. Eliot, did all of that in the Cape and in Johannesburg. And Des and Dawn and I did a lot of shows together. And then along the way, suddenly we worked overseas. I did shows on the ships. I worked in Italy. I worked in the Far East. And singing just came on. And in those days, the young people don't know this, but cabaret was a big thing. And you'd go and perform on your own with no decent lights. And you'd sing for 45 minutes with, don't judge me, with not CDs. It was cassettes.
Yes,
we had cassettes. Yes.
Don't judge me, she says.
Well, we did.
So
and then
funny.
I'd have I'd put like 10 songs onto separate little cassettes. In the first time, we'd have them on one big cassette. So that was a big problem because if the tape player got chewed up, then the cassette was a disaster. And if you were singing to a bunch of people who were getting a bit fraught and having a party, and you knew you had a love song coming on next, it was like, oh no. Then we got clever and we got little cassettes, separate cassettes of 3 or 4 minutes each, so you could slot them in. And then it was CD. And then,
Yeah.
and it's
Yes.
just carried on since then.
Backing
Yeah.
tracks. So, you studied drama, though. You know, you
Yes.
actually did. Did you get a degree?
Yes, I studied speech and drama,
Mm.
and don't laugh, but I also studied law because I figured that if I didn't make it in show business, then I could always be a lawyer because law is also a performance. But then I must be honest, I did lose interest in the legal side because all the stuff I ever learned at Rhodes, all the
Yes.
hectic, wicked cases, they never asked you about those. So I found that was a bit boring. But I studied
Okay.
drama under Professor Roy Sargent, so that was amazing. And then my father brought me back to Cape Town because I was having such a wonderful time at Rhodes. So
Right.
he said, no, you're coming now to Cape Town. You're going to finish up and you will be on a student loan. If you fail, you pay. If you pass, I pay.
Okay.
I pass.
Yes. So Daddy paid. Yay!
Daddy paid, yeah. And then
And
that was it.
were your parents, were they supportive of what you were choosing?
Not in the beginning. In the beginning,
Mm.
my father, he was very serious into banking. My
Mm.
mother, finance. So consequently, there was no theatrical in the family at that point. But
Yeah.
once I proved that I really wanted to do this, then my father was amazing. He was very supportive,
On
as
board.
was my mother. Yes, definitely. So I must say I was very blessed with that. And then
Yeah.
when I moved to Joburg in 1979, I
Mm.
just never went back. I mean, I did go back to actually, visit them, but I stayed in
Yes.
Johannesburg and I've been here ever since. And I love
Wow.
Johannesburg. I love it.
It is quite a place, isn't it? I mean, if there's all the Cape Town people always say to me, there's so much more work in Joburg and they pay you more. And it's the truth because this is the hub, you know. I just wanted to tell you that there are people already coming on board online to say hello to you. And we
Oh,
have, let's see who we've got here. We got Zach Hilton all the way from LA, baby. Wow.
Zach, we did such
Zach.
fabulous shows together.
He
We did
said we
all
did
these,
TV shows together.
yes,
Yeah.
we did
Awesome.
this.
Lovely to see him.
No, we did
Yes?
this lovely show at Margate in Durban with the band for TV4, which was
Yeah.
purely a television station for
I
music. And Zach
I
was
remember
mwah.
that. Zach is still wow. And we've got Marion all the way from Germany. She comes on every single week. Hi, my darling. And wow, Carrie Ann Alliston, my friend. Hello, my darling. Oh, man, we're having such fun. Heather Liebenberg, loving this. Heather, Jeff Owen always comes on. Anthony, who's in Mallorca, he also always comes on. Hi, Anthony. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for visiting. We've got so much to talk about with the lovely Ann Power. So I have some little confession to make.
Yes.
I was never cabaret, musical theater, none of that stuff. Okay, I was like thrown into the sort of pop rock world as an artist from the beginning. But I used to have some envy in me for the girls that could do that thing. And you were one of the girls that could do that thing. And I remember when we did that show, it was Kim Kelly, it was you, it was like a little sort of, I think Ann Williams produced, or one of them produced it, where we were all singing and dancing, and I couldn't dance. And I couldn't dance. So you don't tell me do steps and then sing as well. Don't be ridiculous. So I remember you and the other girls dancing around me. Eventually the choreographer said, just stand in the middle there and let the girls dance around you, which is what happened. And I remember feeling so small because I thought, I'll never be as good as these girls.
Nonsense.
So there's my little confession, because it is a different medium, okay? Musical theater, cabaret, that kind of thing. It takes something more than just getting up and singing. What does it do for you? What was that thing that you used to bring out of yourself to do that?
Ooh, well, I must be honest. I mean, there's a rock singer inside me. There always has been. And I love theater. I love musical theater. And I also love cabaret because when I'm on the international cruises, it's up to me to sing in 5 different languages to keep them interested.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I couldn't speak in 5 different languages, but I could sing. And the best part was when many years ago, this is probably before everyone's time, in the old days, we used to all run around in Rocky Street in Yeovil.
Of course we
And
did,
there,
darling.
and there, and Patrick van Blerk had a beautiful place.
Yes, Midnight
And
Express.
yes, and Rumors,
Casablanca, Cafe Casablanca.
Casablanca. And then Rumors had a beautiful place. And that was when I used to be able to do and there was a place called 58, not 58, that was another story. There was another place next door to Rumors where I used to sing rock and roll. Linda Ronstadt, oh my goodness, that turned me on so much. And then when I was in Hillbrow at Barbara and Utta's place called Club 58, we used to do all the different genres of music. So I kind of did vacillate between all 3 of them, but I just thought, whatever comes up, I just want to do. I just love doing it. And for me, there's nothing better than theater when you've got a different audience. And the nice part is you've got a full orchestra. Singing with backing tracks was fine. Singing with a band was amazing. But I remember a musical I did in the early 80s with my then husband, late husband, Bill Flynn, and it was called Fangs. And it was a rock band. And Bill Fairley was the musical director, and Michael Richard was in it, Graham Clark.
Oh, I remember that.
We all, and they were all hot and sexy, I must tell you. They were fantastic.
Know. Trust
they really
me.
were. So
I
it was
remember how
really,
hot and sexy they were.
and so
they were like
know,
the theater guys, it's like,
yes.
Oh my God, he's an actor.
I know, but they could also sing, and Bill was brilliant because he could do everything. He did the acting, the singing. He was a great singer, but he used to always say he's like a Ned Bat when it comes to dancing, because the bats used to come out, and he was a radio dancer. He danced very well on radio. So, but Bruce Miller, Annalisa Weiland, we all used to work together. It was just fabulous. Yeah.
Wow, you're naming names. So can I ask you, I think, suffice to say, but you might say no, but I think you and Bill were soulmates.
Yes, we were.
Huh?
We were.
Because Bill was like, everybody knows Bill Flynn. His name reverberates in the entertainment world.
Yes.
And when you meet somebody like that, and you two, it just clicks like that.
No, it was amazing. I had a wonderful time with Bill. Show business is show business. People grow apart, they move on. But Bill and I, up until the day he died, were the best of friends. And we were also there because we have a beautiful child, and he's hardly a child now. But it was just, he was always the most incredible father. And if I was having trouble with my particular situation, marriages, whatever, relationships, he was always there for me. So, bless him for that.
Because you weren't there at the end, right? You'd left.
No, we weren't married, but I was
correct.
actually there.
Yes.
I was there on the day that he died. Yeah.
Wow, that's something.
So, I know, it was.
For those of you that don't know who Bill Flynn is, please Google him, because he was also quite something. I would have loved to have had him on the show. Huh? Christian Stain. Hello, Christian. Dave Ray. Thank you for coming on board. When you look at your life changing, as we go through these different stages, right? And then you were married, and then you had a child, and you're still on stage, and you're still pursuing. What was it like then? What did you go through when you're trying to juggle everything and keep everything on track?
I think, the best part about life is that you just get on with it. You have you have, I mean, you have a child. Okay, Ryan was only 4 when Bill and I parted, and I was still performing, and he was, I had a very lovely lady who used to help me with him, but I remember coming back from 58 when we used to work till like 3, 4 in the morning. PJ Powers had come and done a quick set, and then
Yeah.
I'd sort of drive home down Empire Road because I used to live in Westdean, and then you'd
Yes.
get home at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd feel this little face at 6 going, "Hello, mommy, it's school time." And I'd say, "Oh, yes, it is."
Oh,
And then we did. But I mean, we just did it. I mean, I was
of
young,
course.
and and there's always a challenge. But then I think every era, every generation has its challenges.
Yes.
And we just have to we have to multitask. I mean, I used to MC a lot. I did a lot of television specials.
Yes.
I
Okay.
had my own shows. But you
Yes.
couldn't just sit down and say, "I want to be an actor." You had to say, "Okay, I've got to pay the bills. I've got to do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
I'll do a show at Sun City. I'll do that." Yes, and then, in 2015, when I was offered the role in Singing in the Rain, and it was my
Yes.
first international tour, because up until then, I'd done corporates overseas, I'd sung
Mm.
on the Mediterranean cruises, but my son and all his mates had done all the international tours, but I never
Okay.
had. And so I got this as Dora Bailey. And Dora Bailey was such a hysterical word because in show business, Dora means a drink. So if you Dora, that means you've had a few drinks. So it was only apt that Ann Power played Dora Bailey. So we had such fun. And we opened in New Zealand, and
Wow.
we went through the Far East. We went to Manila, Singapore, Hong Kong. And that for me was such an exciting experience at a stage in my life when I thought I wouldn't necessarily ever do a tour again, and we did that for nearly a year. So
Wow.
I'm very blessed. I've had lots of exciting things. Yes, we have huge challenges as performers, and
Yes.
especially nowadays with all the drama that we're facing with COVID, and the
Mm.
theatres have been closed, and I see all my active friends trying this and trying that, and I'm
Mm.
so proud. I'm so proud of them because one thing about show business is you either want to do it or you don't. You're not doing
Exactly.
it for the money because
Yes,
it's
that's
in
for
your
sure.
heart, it's in
That is
your
for sure.
soul, and that
You
is
know,
your calling. Yes.
that is it. I've always said that people always ask me on interviews, say, what would you tell a young person today? What bit of advice would you give them regarding them coming into the music business? I say, make sure you're doing it because you love it. Because if you're doing it for the money, you better stop right now. Because how many times have we been, I mean, now for 6 months, I didn't have work.
I
What
know
was I
it's
going to
terrible.
do? So what I've also seen and found is that entertainment, the people in the industry, musicians, actors, whatever, we're very resilient. Because as you said, we just get on with it.
Mm.
We haven't got time to
Yeah,
sit and cry. There's no time to sit and be a victim and like, oh, look what's happened to me. There isn't time. You've got to just keep going and hitting that next one, whatever that may be.
exactly. And I think the most important thing, and it was there in the beginning many years ago, is that unfortunately you can't rely on one thread of the industry. So
No.
you write, you direct, you MC, you create, you put little shows together, you do little one-woman shows,
Yes.
but you can make a living. And now, especially
Yes.
with the different television shows that are happening, there are a lot of actors working. There's some
Yes.
great series that are happening that
Yes.
are South African. So, I mean, even things like Legacy and Lioness, there's a lot happening still, and
Mm.
a lot of people are writing. So there is definitely hope. It's just terribly sad that we are the only industry and the hospitality industry that have been given
Yes.
nothing.
Yes.
And yet
Nothing.
we are the ones that make people happy, that make them
Yes.
excited. I mean, in the war years, everybody went to the theater just to actually feel good
Absolutely.
about themselves. Now they can't. So I'm praying that things are going to open up soon for everyone.
I sure do as well. It's like when your whole world just stops. And as you mentioned, during the war and all that stuff, I mean, the music has always carried us through. When it was wartime, they used to go to those speakeasies and just dance the night away and get drunk and go home with some stranger. Yay, baby. Just to remember what it felt like to be alive, you know, so that you weren't in the war. I was very interested to read that you managed the Victory Theatre, because I had a very big fondness for the Victory and the Emoja show and all that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, it was quite interesting because Bill had passed away in 2007, and then Ryan performed. He did the Rocky Horror Show in 2008, and he did it at the Victory, because for me, the Victory Theatre was always so special. And then Joe Taron, he refurbished it, etc. And then we chatted, and then he said to me, "Why don't you come and run the theatre for me?" And I thought, my goodness, I've never been an admin girl, but let me try it. And it was amazing. And Africa Emoja was just an incredible show. We had Kathy Specific on there at that time as well. And it was such a beautiful theatre. It just had so much history. And if you think of all the Rocky Horror shows that had performed at the Victory Theatre.
Unbelievable. It was a big thing.
Yeah, and then it was I enjoyed it very much. But you see, unfortunately, my passion was performing. So I had a very good run.
Yes.
And I also met the most fantastic performers, and especially with Africa Emoja. And that was my thrill. And then I decided I went back to the other side, which was the performing side. I never really liked being management. It's not really my thing, being management.
No, I'm also not great at that, because I like to also perform. But when you think about it, you know, a lot of people think, oh, musicians, you know, they just play and how lovely their lives are, and all they do is this and this and this. Most musicians are highly intelligent people. You know, they're highly intelligent. I mean, they sit in a room. I mean, you think of all the poets in the old way back days, when you think of all the beat poets that used to hang around in Harlem and hang around in New York. I mean, the absolute intellectual prowess that was flying around those rooms was something out of the world, because musicians are attached to poetry, to music, to the word, the spoken word. And that's a part of all of that, you know, being intellectually awake. There's an awakeness about musos. We plugged in, you know, we talk about anything, you know.
We couldn't do without musicians. Absolutely.
No.
Definitely we couldn't.
It's very important to have this kind of thing, because there are so many different places. I mean, there's bankers, there's lawyers, you know, we couldn't do without the lawyers, couldn't do without the bankers, blah, blah, blah. But music and poetry and theatre feeds our souls.
Exactly. So I must say, when I look back on the 40 years I've been in this industry, I mean, that really dates me, I know, but what the hell?
No,
and,
please don't worry about it.
And I must say that, you know, you look back on all the different eras that you've been through, and it was when Sean Maynard called me and said, you know, we've had a survey done, etc., and we want to induct you into the Living Legends. I was like, what? The Living Legends? What's that? And it was quite amazing, because Sean Maynard, Siegfried Maynard, who was a brilliant performer in his time.
Yes.
And Sean is the grandnephew. And he just said, you know, it's important to give the older actors, or the mature actors, or the experienced actors something. So he got this museum together in Pretoria, and it's called the Living Legends. And we all had a bust made of us in bronze, and we were inducted. And it was Amanda Strydom and Des and Dawn and Richard Loring, and it was all the different singers, for Jackson and Jill and Lance James. And we all sat there with Mimi Kutzer. We sat with all these great people, And I just thought, wow, that is so special to actually have that. And you know, since then we have lost a lot of them, but it's
Yes.
just kudos to Sean for actually putting this out there, which was brilliant.
Well, I think that's
I
very
don't
nice to
I
hear
don't know
about.
whoever goes to I don't know who goes to see anything there, but it's there. It's there in
You'd
Pretoria.
be surprised, darling. You know, and now I think those kind of things are very, very important. You know, in the Europe and stuff, they bow down to their legends. They absolutely love them. Wow, you know, all the older artists, the older actors. There's always something about them in the news, in the paper. South Africa's not so much like that. You know, there's not so much of a like, hey, honor you. You're a legend. You've done this in the industry, etc., etc. Not that I need an accolade or I need a
No,
bust. You know, it's
no, no.
not
Look,
that, but I'm just, I don't need
I
a
must.
bust. I've
Now I
got
know you
one.
don't need a bust. You've got a beautiful, ample bust. I can see it's very good. No, you don't. But I think it's just fun. Oh, Shane, are you okay?
Listen to me. Oh, don't. Nobody knows I've got the most terrible bronchitis. I'm so sick.
Oh, shame,
But I didn't want
Cindy.
to tell anybody until I start laughing, and then it
Okay.
makes me go hysterical. So stop making me laugh, please.
Okay, I
Thank
promise I
you.
will. I promise I will. Okay.
Sorry, everybody. I'm making it through the show, though. My voice isn't terrible, as long as I don't have to sing.
No.
Okay, so as you were saying, darling, please continue.
No, I was just saying that, you know, we live in such an amazing country and just working with all the different talented people that we have,
Yeah.
it's fun, it's great, you know, and I look at my son and I think my son's age group as well, you know, they've had a very hard time. Their shows were all
Yes.
cancelled.
Yes.
Suddenly, you know, people have lost their houses, they've lost
Mm.
I mean, restaurants, and it's just been very, very sad. So we're just praying. I believe we're only going to get all vaccinated by 2017. Well, then I'm going to be so old, I won't care.
I won't even care. Me
I'll
too.
just drink my scotch.
Yeah, that's the best thing. I drink formaldehyde. It pickles your insides. It's very good.
Oh, okay.
Keeps you
Well,
in the,
I don't know
it's
about
like
that. I'll leave
vodka.
that to you.
No,
All right. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
just
I'll leave that to you.
leave the formaldehyde to me. I'm just checking who's come to visit us. Tim Hill, Tim, all the way from the
Oh,
UK. Morris Fresco.
Morris. Oh,
Ah,
Morris, my agent. He used to always book me for all these amazing shows. Oh,
Morris is going to be on the
Morris. Yeah.
show. I'm getting him on the show. I'm getting Morris on the show. Tony Miguel. Do you
Oh
need
my
a
goodness, Tony. Hey, Tony Miguel, thank you for coming on and saying hi. Such a
and
superstar.
yeah, wow. And Leonard Fisher. Thank you. Oh, he's one of my friends from South Africa who lives in Toronto. Thank you for coming on, Leonard. He was
Oh,
actually my
thanks,
sister's friend.
Leonard.
It's awesome. We've
Well,
got such a
we
lovely
love all the
array.
friends.
We love everybody. I love everybody. Just love everybody. As long as I don't have a heart attack on air. I want to see some photos. We've got some amazing photos. Julian,
Okay.
our producer, is going to plonk them on. Wow. Power couple of note, eh?
Oh, yeah, we just got engaged many years ago.
Oh my word. How's that, eh?
Oh, there's Joan Brickhill and
Joan
myself.
Brickhill. For those who don't know, these are the absolute creme de la creme of the South African theatre business. Wow. What
Oh,
was his name again?
that was Neil Lessig.
Neil.
Neil Lessig. Neil used to do a lot of huge corporates. I
Yes.
remember we did the most fantastic shows for Neil. He's now living in Durban.
Okay. I remember
Yeah.
him. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. Oh,
Oh, that is my darling Argos. Argos Moahi. We did when we decided to put a show together called From La Scala to Broadway. I did all the Broadway, he did the opera. And we toured and we did a whole lot of shows for Sun International. And then we went to Italy to do a show for an Italian couple of mine that wanted to have, they said, we're in the land of opera singers, and we want
Okay.
Argos and you to sing in the Verona Castle, backing onto Lake Como. And we did this huge show. We flew in there for the weekend to Verona, did the show. What fun. No, and just drank Cristal. Oh, it was great. I enjoyed it.
Darling. You see, it's those kind of things, it's not like, I mean, I'm not the kind of artist that wants to be crowned and gloried. I don't need 40 doves in my dressing room and white sheets and all that kind of stuff. But I tell you what, when we do get a nice little boops like this one, it's awesome. Just to be treated like a goddess,
Oh, that was from the movie To the Power of Anne. Yeah, when we were doing
Okay.
physical, I had to force myself. All those gorgeous young boys.
Oh, it's very hard, terribly hard.
I know.
Oh, life is so hard sometimes. Lovely. Okay. And there's your son.
Yes, that was my son on my 50th birthday. So it was
Wow, look at
it was a
you.
while ago, and we had
Not that
such
long,
fun.
Anne. Not that long, darling.
Thank you.
Dawn.
There's my
Oh,
lovely Dawn. I love her so much. She was we used to call her, she was my matron, because she was, at my second wedding, she was the matron with Dawn Lindbergh, with Joan Brickhill. And she was there. She introduced me to Bill. She was there at my weddings, my divorces, and my baby's birth. And she was always there, always there.
it must have been very hard when she went, eh?
It was terrible, yeah. Oh, well.
Woo, baby.
Well, it would have been nice if I could still look like that. That was when we did a show for Des and Dawn Lindbergh called The Good Body with Liz Mayron. And we did that at the theatre on the square, and it was such fun.
Well, it looks like it was fun. And look at you and your dance wear.
Oh, that was just on one of the international cruises and doing cabaret.
You look great. Look at you.
Oh, thank you. I know. It was all glitter, glitter, glitter. Hair blow dried. Yeah, but the hair was blow dried into a coma.
Absolutely. Because when you're on the ships, it gets all frizzy from the sun and the wind. Look at that. It's beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, that's from To the Power of Anne, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that brought back lovely memories.
Isn't that great? I mean, I love things like this. I'm going to ask you a weird question. As an artist, what do you stand up for? What do you believe in? What is your kudo? Your sort of, who's Anne deep inside when she's, if you had to say what I stand for, this is what I stand for.
I stand for the fact that we all need to be allowed to do what we would like to do in terms of our career. I also believe that everybody needs an opportunity, and we need to be kind to others, because if we're kind to others as we would like them to be to ourselves, I believe in honesty, integrity, treating people nicely, lovingly, generously, trying to help someone. If you've got somebody, not just necessarily telling them, okay, you want to be in show business, I can give you advice. No, but helping, because we have such a huge gap in this country between those people who do this and those people who can't get there. And I think that with the corporate market now, people are allowing more people to be able to realize their dreams. Forget the pandemic. I know it's there and it's horrible. But at the same time, with the talent, with our sports stars, trying to encourage young people to play cricket, netball, rugby, with the opera department, trying to encourage young singers to perform. I mean, look at Pretty Yendi. I mean, Pretty Yende is internationally superb. She's one of our own people. But unfortunately, she can't perform here much because there is no opportunity for her.
There's no work?
So we're losing so many amazing performers. I know we're losing a lot of professionals in other areas, but my whole deal is show business. My whole thing is, if you've got somebody who can dance beautifully and they can't afford to dance, let's make a plan to let them dance, do the workshops, bring everybody in, just work together as a nation. Because, in show business, we're all equal. That's the best part. We've always been equal. I love that.
And I totally agree with that. That's beautiful, Anne, because it's for real. You know what I'm saying? It's like there are so many opportunities, especially in a country like this. There is money to burn, and unfortunately, it's being burned by the wrong people.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, they are abusing what should be used to start more schools for the arts, start more schools for dancers. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, there was one place you could go if you were. There was the School of Art, Music, and Ballet. That was it. And I wasn't going to be an artist, and I wasn't going to study music composing and proper, you know, like reading music and stuff like that. I was definitely not going to be a ballerina. So,
Oh, come on, Cindy. You point
darling,
those toes. You point
I
those
can
toes.
point them. I can point them, but it depends what direction you're asking me to point them in. Okay. Don't make me laugh. I'm going to start hysterically
Okay,
whooping.
no more
Like I've got
laughter.
whooping cough. So,
Okay.
so if there were more opportunities, it would be an amazing thing because I think there's so much talent in this country. It is ridiculous. When we look at our history, okay, let's look at us as a time of years. It was the late 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, the things that were happening then, the shows, the clubs, it was like every night of the week you could go somewhere, either to a theater show, a cabaret show, watch a band, see whatever you wanted, and it was wow, out of this world.
But it was also in the 2000s. I mean,
Yes, yes.
up until 2 years ago, there was amazing stuff happening. Do you know how many of our South African artists are performing all over the world? Right
Yeah.
now, yes, I know they've all been suspended, but I cannot tell you how many performers worked for 3, 4 years. We've got the amazing Jonathan Rocksmith, Phantom of the Opera. They've
Yes. Oh,
all over
yes,
the world.
yes.
And why do you think South Africans are so sought after for international companies? Because they work hard and they
That's
are
it.
so good at what they do.
That's it. There's a work ethic amongst South Africans that is quite unsurpassable. I remember when I was living in America, the first woman that hired me, I was working for a casting agency for the extras in the movie business and TV business. So like we had extras on our roster and we would make sure we booked them every single day on some set somewhere. So it was like LA Law and all those things in those days. It
Oh,
was
wow.
the early 90s. And I remember her saying to me, she says, I've never met anybody that's worked so hard. I said, but I'm just working like a normal person. I'm not working extra hard because I have to please you or anything. She said, I've never seen it before like this. I said, oh, okay. And that's when I started realizing South Africans have a very high work ethic. It's like
Yes,
right
they
up
do.
there.
And
Yeah.
they're very talented. Bottom
Very
line, they're
talented.
talented. That's the thing.
Very talented.
Yeah.
And I can't say no. And that's why I get disappointed when people don't believe in themselves and when they buy into the South Africa's not cool thing, you know, chip on the shoulder that we've had as South Africans for so many years.
Yeah, well, I mean, fair enough. But I do think that people do believe in themselves. But, you can believe in yourself and you can actually want to be the best you can be. But if you're not earning money and you can't actually look after your children and your family, it's kind of very daunting. It's very daunting. So, that
Absolutely.
is, it's just, we live in very crazy times. I mean, when I was chatting to some of my friends' kids or grandchildren,
Yes.
and they were just saying, I just thought these poor kids are like 18 years old. Where do they go? What do? They can't go
Yeah.
jawling. They can't do this.
Yeah.
And it must be so incredibly frightening to actually, with the whole sitting at home and now we're allowed out, and I don't know what the president's saying right now because he's on at 7:30. They say he could change this, he could close this, he could close that. But in fairness, the poor hospitality trade, the restaurants, they deserve to
Still.
stay open for Easter
Yes.
because they need
Yes.
to also and even the bottle stores. Look, I do enjoy my drinks, but what about all the people who are working in the bottle stores? So, you know, it's a thing, but I just want us, I see that there are a few gigs happening now where people are able to go and listen to live music, and that is so beautiful. I want to hear you rocking and rolling again, Cindy Alter. Come on, man. I
I've
want to
been
hear it.
rocking and rolling quite a bit. I'll just
I
have to
know.
invite you next time I do it.
Yes, definitely. I want to be there. I want to
I
be
would
there.
love you to be there. Because the last time you were there, you came and sang with me. Do you remember?
I remember.
That was so cool. Oh my
Ach,
gosh.
no. But you know what the best part is? Whatever happens in the future, all I can say is we're still here, honey. We're still here.
My new single is called Last One Standing. And I
Oh,
think
okay.
it's very pertinent right now that we are all the last one standing. We are still here. I love it. Oh, I love it.
Fantastic. Yeah, it is.
You've worked with the top of the tops. Let's talk, I mean, like Peter Dirk Ace, Rex Garner, Elaine D. Wolf. Just talk a bit about that for.
Okay, well, Peter Dirk Ace, I met many years ago when when Bill and I went, he was doing a show, and I met Peter Dirk Ace through Bill, and we just became very good friends. And then when I was pregnant with Ryan, he'd give me a little present. We didn't know what it was in those days, and he was always such a gentle, generous man. He was always there to guide and and it was quite interesting because Bill was doing Waiting for Godot with Winston and Shauna and John Carney. And that's where they went actually overseas to London to do the show at the Old Vic. And no, sorry, that was the other show. They went to New Haven to do the show at the Long Wharf Theatre in America. And there was it was meant to be Peter Dirk Ace, and then something came up for Peter, and then Bill got it, and they went overseas to America, and then Peter came up with this amazing Evita Bezaid note.
Yeah.
So, you know, everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
And then Bill went overseas, and then when he came back from doing Waiting for Godot, then they also performed at the Old Vic in London, and working, just being part of that. I was his little fiance then, so I was very green, like, ooh, this is different to singing it in Hillbrow. But it was brilliant, and Peter Dirk Ace has always been such a special man. Well, he is a special man, and he's so incredibly talented, and he's performed all over the world, and everybody just absolutely adores him. And the other one you mentioned was, hang on, who else did you say?
Rex Garner.
Oh, Rex Garner and I met when I was very much younger. I hadn't even had my son yet, and so I was in my very early 20s, and he was the director for a lot of shows that I've worked with Peter Turin for many, many years. I met Peter Turin when I was 22, and I've just been working consistently with him, obviously not for a while, but up until that point.
Yes.
And Rex Garner used to always, he was the master of farce. And you would actually get, and I remember a wonderful show I did with Rex, where I did quite a few, but the one was called One for the Pot. And it starred the most wonderful man, Toby Cronje. And Toby and I, he had to play my boyfriend, and and in those days with farce, Rex Garner used to always say, farce is a very specific genre. It's quite mechanical, because if you get onto the stage, you say a line, beat pause, say the next line, walk off. He said, if you fall in love with your line, you won't get the laughter. And it was so interesting because with him, you'd go on stage and Toby was he is amazing. And then Toby would be flying out of a door and then hopping into my arms, and then I'd carry him off. Rex Garner was my buddy, which is my dad, and it was all North Country, all very North Country. And then Rex would come on in his wheelchair, and he would then turn his back to the audience and do the most disgraceful things to me. laugh and pull faces, and then Toby and I would be falling on the floor. But of course,
Yes.
the
We
audience couldn't know, so we had to pinch holes. They used to call it corpsing. You
Corpsing,
can't
I
corpse on
remember.
stage.
Don't you
And
dare.
and Rex would just, and then I'd be standing there delivering this love speech to Toby because it was a comedy. And then
Okay.
I'd see in the wings, there would Rex be running around, pulling out these big signs, which were very rude to make us laugh. And then we'd all be shrieking, but having not to let the audience in. And then eventually the audience would pick up that something had happened, and then
Sure.
they'd collapse. Because as long as the audience knew what you were laughing about, if they
That's
were
great.
in, because then when they went home, they would say, oh, it was the most incredible evening because Rex did something funny and everybody fell about.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's what happened once with Bill. We were doing another show called The Foreigner, and Bill could not, he was the foreigner, but he wasn't really a foreigner, but he was officially playing a foreigner. And
Okay.
it was Philip Godower, and we were all on stage, and Bill couldn't see well without his glasses, so they had to eat scrambled eggs. And then Bill was so busy chatting that he spat an egg out by mistake onto Jeremy Crutchley, who is now a big star in America. He spat it out and it fell onto his cheek, and Bill couldn't see it. But Jeremy was now collapsing. The audience took one look at this, they collapsed, and Bill thought, what's their problem? And Jeremy kept trying to get Bill to laugh, but Bill couldn't see without his glasses. So, he was fine. He was the worst corpser in the world. He would go on stage in the Agatha Christie shows, and he would actually Gordon Mulholland and who was it? And Martin Bailey, they were doing a show.
Martin,
And then it was in Hercule Poirot, the Agatha Christie. And then
Right.
Bill would just walk in his underpants and say, "Hi, everybody, what's happening?" And everybody would be like, "But we never saw him in the curtain." In the curtain call, they'd say, "But we never saw him on the stage. He was doing the show downstairs." So I mean, all these crazy things. And that was at the old Alhambra Theatre in Doornfontein.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and the late Richard Haynes, he was incredible. He played a most incredible role. No, there were so many wonderful. But theatre we'd go from the Market to the Andre Huguenot in Hillbrow, then to the Alhambra. Everybody used to just mix around and see each other, and it was great.
There was a lot of community in those days, Like everybody knew everybody. And then we'd end up at Plum Crazy late at night or wherever you ended up. But
And
I
you'd walk
love
down-
those stories.
No, but you'd walk down from when I was doing the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas at His Majesty's. And then there was a restaurant just up the road called the
Cellar.
Bistrot. No, there was the
Okay.
Bistrot. And then we'd all go up there, and then we'd all decide at 2 a.m. because look, we were young. There was no problem with driving in those days. Now I use Uber. And then we'd go off to Hillbrow. We'd go to Lucky Luke's and have a cream steak at 2, 3 in the morning.
Oh,
I mean, it was just, it was crazy times, crazy. Hillbrow was just the jewel of the century.
Hillbrow was everything. Without
Exactly.
Hillbrow, we wouldn't have existed. I'm just looking here what we've got. Who's talking to us? So we've got Mark Bloomberg all the way from Israel. Hi from Israel.
Hi, Mark.
How cool is that? Also a musician, Mark.
Oh.
Jeff said he met Joan Brickhill in Paris boarding an aircraft for Joburg. He just evacuated from Iran during the... Wow.
Wow.
That's quite an
Gosh,
interesting
Jeff.
thing. Okay. Amira Faye, right.
Amra Faye. She's the
Sorry,
star
I
of
can't
Chicago.
read it.
Yeah, Amra Faye
Okay.
is a big superstar in America. She's one of ours. She's South
Yes.
African, and she's amazing.
Oh, right. Yes. What else? Ryan Flynn. Yo, Ma.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm glad that I'm sounding fab, and I'm glad I'm still your kipper. I'm starting to talk. Oh, that's wonderful.
Sorry.
Thanks, Ryan.
It's not catchy. I hope it's not catchy. All right, now I have to talk about the TV4 shows, those nostalgia shows, those flashback shows, which were so spectacular. I mean, every single one of you on that stage was an absolute superstar. I'm talking about from the musicians to the singers to every. I mean, I've seen a few of them. Dennis East, Eugene Haberha, Jethro Buto, Denny Lalouette, Kevin Kruger, of course, my Kevin. I loved my Kevin.
Yeah, and Johan was also playing for us.
Johan, oh my God. And then Lorraine Southwick singing. Even Glenda Miller at the time, who's Glenda Sixel now, who was with Clout. Glenda used to sing with us. I mean, just talk about being in those things. That must have been ridiculous, because Kevin could make you cry with laughter at all times.
Yeah, he could. I must tell you, we used to have the best time because the shows we did in Durban, I mean, you can imagine it was all
on
the
the
60s and the
beachfront.
70s, yeah. And they'd set up this huge stage, and we'd have probably 5,000-6,000 people on the beach. And then we'd go up, and we'd all be in our mini skirts and our big hair. It was big hair.
Of course it was.
In fact, when the wind blew, my hair did not move. It was amazing. And then we'd sing all of those songs. My favorite, You Don't Have to Say You Love Me, You're My World, Aquarius. And you know what's so funny, Cindy, is every now and again, Bobby Lowe, who was so adorable, he always put on the odd little clip on Facebook. And then we'd all fall about going, oh my goodness, look at us.
Look at me, look at me, look at me.
There was no Facebook in those days. So
and
we were safe. I'm very glad there wasn't. And there were no cell phones that could video us. And then we'd also do the fabulous shows in Margate. And that was lovely because they'd build the stage right on the rocks in Margate. And then we'd all take over all the various little houses there. Well, I don't want to advocate anything, but all I can say is a lot of fun was had by all.
I should hope so, for God's sake, man. We're young and we're free and we're musicians, and let's just have a bloody good time.
I know it was, and the audiences, the people used to clap and dance. It was so, and even when it rained the one time in Margate, nobody cared. Some of them just put their umbrellas up, others just stalled and danced. And oh no, those were that TV4 Percy Van Roy, and he was amazing. The way he had that TV4 channel for all of our flashbacks.
That was really spectacular. Terrific. I had one show like that. It was 1989. I had just left Zia, and the next morning I was flying to PE with Bobby and Denny and Jethro and Kev and all the guys. We were doing a show in PE. I got to do one of those shows. I'll never forget that experience, because I'd been working with Bobby's band 909 at Spats on a Monday night.
Spats. Oh my gosh, Spats! I'd forgotten about Spats.
I worked there for them for about 6 months, and if I tell you, I probably have never laughed so much in my life in that 6 months. Never. I laughed so much that I literally would pee in my pants every day. Every time.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad you're sharing that with us. That's very nice.
Sorry, but I could not help it. I was finished. Kevin Kruger cracked me up so badly that I couldn't even walk sometimes. I was like, when you're laughing and falling? Yeah, laughing and falling. So I've told everybody I peed in my pants, but it's the truth.
Well, I think that's wonderful. What about the dearest Tony Moore? I mean, I remember Tony, how fabulous. Oh, Tony was just amazing. The very first 7 single I ever made with Tully was, we had Tony Moore on drums, we had Jethro on guitar. I mean, it was what you heard is what you saw is what you got. It wasn't in those days in the late 70s. We did, I mean, you'd have the organ, you'd have this, but you couldn't lay too many tracks down. Whereas now your backing tracks are massive. So you don't even need, but you still want that live thread. But I remember sitting in the studio, and there was no auto tuning then. We had to sing.
No, you have to
in
sing in tune. And Tony Moore and I were very, very dear friends for many, many years. Danielle Power.
Oh, that's my little niece. Hey, Danny.
Hello,
What's she up to?
Danny. And Mark, there's a clip of Zach Hilton on that show in Margate.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. So let's look at some more photos, because I know we've got a few more.
Okay.
I love hearing these stories about what was going on. And, you know, when you go back in time, I definitely don't live in the past. I'm not one of those people.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
All the time. That's us. Okay, so I don't live in the past, but when we're talking in these shows, this is just a reminiscing. It's a reminiscing of a time that we will always hold precious to us. Because it was a time that it was something in our lives, you know. You can't change those times. They will always, as I said, they're on TV. They're on YouTube. You can find them.
I know.
It's posterity. I love it. I just love it. Tell me about Caesar's Palace.
Okay, well, the show that I did, in fact, I did it in 94, and we decided to put a show together, and there was a nightclub in Johannesburg called Caesar's Palace. It was in Braamfontein. And so what we did was we decided to do a musical show where I could interview different artists and sing every now and again, but we had a live band, which was brilliant. And we did this, and it was such fun because we'd shoot 2 shows at once. And I was so excited because I earned 200 Rand a show.
Woo!
It was amazing.
Hitting the big time.
I tell you, we had the audience and we had the musicians, and we'd do a rehearsal, and then we'd record it. And we interviewed the most wonderful artists. And I remember I had PJ Powers on. We had Yvonne Chaka Chaka. It was just brilliant. But then it only lasted for a while because, with SABC, things don't last for a long time. But it was still a fantastic experience. And just to interview artists and not be, that's what I'm saying in terms of my career. Yes, I've loved doing the theatre. I've loved doing the singing. And I also love doing the interviewing. And I love doing the voiceovers and the MC and, just like doing everything under the umbrella, which is such fun.
There's a lot, variety and versatility. That's another thing. If they put you in a box, they say, hey, she just acts or she's just a this. It's like, no, you've definitely never been in a box. And that's nice.
Well, they'll just try to put me in a box.
Put me in a box. Like, don't back baby into a corner, We talked about Bestel Whorehouse and all those amazing shows. The camaraderie in theatre. We just talked about that a little bit, but it's the same as the musicians. We all hang out together and there's all these in-jokes and all that stuff. If I had to ask you right now, we haven't worked for a while. Things have been crazy. But what helps you stay relevant?
I don't think there's any one thing that can actually help you stay relevant. I think the most important part is that you open your mind up to how people do things today. There's no point in me telling you this is how we used to do it. That is why older people were always so frowned upon, because they'd always say, when I was your age, I did it this way. I would never do that. As far as I'm concerned, they are their own age. They must learn for themselves. They must do what they have to do. And it's even today with theatre. You've got all these. When I used to do theatre, we never had understudies. If you were sick, you went on. If you were dying, well, obviously, then they had to close the show. And I
Yeah.
remember doing a show called Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which we toured around the country in the 90s. And it was the first time that the 4 arts councils joined together. And we did the show, Mark Richardson and myself, and it was Jeffrey Sutherland, who was our director, and Brian Hill, who's now the MD of the Teatro. He was in it. And we performed all over. But we had no understudy, so we had to be very careful about how we looked after ourselves. And on the one occasion, I got food poisoning. There was a full house in Durban at the Playhouse. There was nothing I could do. They had to cancel the show. So, but now at least they are organized. So now you've got a first understudy, a second understudy. So there's never a case of closing the show for the night. But then it was in the 90s, so things were different. But it was lovely. I mean, gosh, we used to party on tour. Whoa. There was always that expression in show business. What happens on tour stays on tour. I think they coined it from the Vegas line. But anyway.
The Vegas, of course.
Yeah. What they meant was whatever you got up to on tour, nobody really spoke about.
Nobody spoke about it. It was that.
There was no Facebook. There was no Facebook. There were no cell phones. So you know what? Sorry, guys. We all got away with a lot. Now,
everything's
Uncle Sam is watching. Uncle Sam's watching.
And it's the truth. I mean, all those big stars that have had their sex tapes done, or we caught her in the bathroom doing something, whatever it is, it's tough. I preferred the old days when they couldn't catch you doing anything.
No, well, now when they have especially at Rhodes University, because everything was very wild in those days.
Yes.
And I think it's so fun because now the Rhodians will put a black and white photograph of all of us at the ball. Very nice. We were all at the ball. God knows what we did afterwards. Nobody knows because it's only on a black and white photograph. No, it's all very good. I feel sorry for the young people with all the Facebook stuff. Or not the Facebook, but the videos that go viral.
Yeah.
Ooh, you've got to be careful.
That is terrifying. I mean, imagine that.
I know, but it's all good. You know, everybody has to learn their own way. I can't tell my son to do something a certain way. He will do it his way, and he probably will be more successful than I was because he's looking at it with a fresh face, fresh eyes. We've just got to open up. My darling parents, my darling father, who bless him up in heaven, he always believed this is the way it must be. And I always said, you know what, I literally rebelled against all of that when I got married and had my son. I just thought I'm doing it because I know how bad I was. If my dad said you can't go there, I would make a plan. I'd jump out the window, go over the wall, run down the road, hitch to the jaw. I mean, I would. So why would I think that, you know, my child wouldn't do that? But I'd rather just let my son know that his mother trusts him and I'm there for him. And if, for God's sake, something happens, well, now he's a grown-up, he's a father himself. But when he was a young teenager, I'd rather he tells me than actually, you know, disappears because he's too embarrassed to tell his parents that he made a bad choice. So I have a very different philosophy with children than my parents, bless them, had with me. My mother was cool, but my dad was she's amazing, my mother. And I've got to be nice because she'll probably be listening to this. But my dad was very parrot. And if you earn power, parrot doesn't stop you. You're still going to do what you want to do anyway.
But that's why we love you, Anne. Because you got so much pizzazz. Well, I think that's been your life. You know, you chose your path. As you say, people must do what they want to do. Don't hurt people. Don't be a pig. Just be a good person. Go out there, have fun, enjoy. We're all doing this thing. We're all in this together, man. You know.
But remember one thing, Cindy. Show business chooses you.
I know.
You
I've always
know
said
in
this.
your soul. In your soul,
Always.
you know you have to do this. It's not a case of, I think I'm going to try this for a bit.
No.
You choose it because it's in your soul and you have to do it. Without doing it, you're not alive.
Well, I always said that music chose me. That's in my bio. It's everywhere. Music chose me. It was like this little finger going, come here, little girl. I've got sweeties for you. And you have to go.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. No,
So
you're so right.
I'm very interested. I read something that you did that documentary, Getting Away with Murder,
Yes.
the Brett Kebble story. Tell me a bit about that.
Okay, that was an amazing concept. My dearest friend Warren Batchelor, he actually had this. He'd worked on this project for a long time, and he was very close to it. And then he turned it into a documentary, and it was an incredible experience. I was able to work with him on it in a sort of an associate producer way. We got funding for it, and it was actually, it's been on Showmax for ages as 204 Getting Away with Murder, the Brett Kebble story. And Warren he actually interviewed the killers of Brett Kebble. He reenacted, he directed it, wrote the script. We reenacted the killers murdering Brett Kebble. We had an actor a guy who looked a lot like Brett Kebble who played that part. And it was incredible to actually get to grips with the people. And we interviewed Jackie Celebi. We interviewed some of the top people that were involved in this from the Scorpion side. And I must be honest, it was an amazing experience. And it took a long time to come out because Warren is a perfectionist and he wanted it to be exactly correct. But it was a lot of it was interviews with reenactments, and it was a brilliant documentary. And I would actually like to send you the link because I think
I would like to see that.
Tony Miguel was also a very important producer of that. And so it really was something that I've never got involved with before. And once again, to try something completely different under the guidance of Warren Batchelor and Tony Miguel. No, it was an incredible experience.
Well, it's
I
quite
must
a thing
send
to do.
I must send you the
Please
link.
do.
Yeah, I will.
Please do. I'd love to watch that. Also, I was not in the country when that happened, so I didn't really know what was happening. When I came back and I heard what had happened, and the fact that you interviewed the killers and still nobody was arrested.
Yeah, it was. Well, they were, and then they weren't. Yeah.
Yes,
so, I mean,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Interesting times.
It was.
Hey?
It was very interesting.
I know that you still have things to do, that you are not done by any stretch of the imagination.
I hope not.
No way. So, like, when I say, where are you now? What do you want to do? What's on the list? Little bucket list, baby bucket list, something. Hey, I'd love to do this, or I'm thinking about doing that, or I'm working on something. Let us know. What is it?
Well, at the moment, obviously, with the industry being in the flux that it is in, one has to look at other areas of what you can do. I am actually working. I'm still singing, but I've got a project that we are working on. We're looking at possibly doing in the future another version of To the Power of Anne, but now this is when she's now hitting 60. So now it's a different version. But yeah, at the moment that's all talk. And then when I'm not doing that, then I've got involved in property, and I've become a property consultant with Club Real Estate, and I'm enjoying that. So if I'm not performing on stage, I'm performing to the people I take to see properties. I can say, why not? Just look at this fantastic property. No, I'm not that bad. But that's been amazing to me.
I bet you good.
I can sing at their housewarming.
There you go.
So, just looking at various aspects of things to do. But right now, I'm really enjoying just being a granny and looking after my little grandson when I get the opportunity to, because his name is James William Flynn, and he's absolutely beautiful. And he's 20 months old. So, and he just loves granny, and he plays the piano, but with he bangs the piano around. Yeah, exactly. But no, he's adorable, and just being with family and just trying to keep our head above water. When we did To the Power of Anne, the poster was a picture of me with the water there. And it was 2013.
Sure.
So we never thought anything like this would
No,
happen. And
no.
every time I walk down my passage and I see this poster of me and it's like this, and I think, whoa, art is stranger than fiction, you know? It
Sure.
actually, it's incredible how suddenly these things start happening. So for me, the most important thing has been trying to, you know, keep myself alive, keep myself working,
Yes.
and look after my two little Jack Russells called Garbo and Redford, who are nightmares. They are so well behaved. They're sitting on the couch and they have not been allowed to move.
They've
And
been very good.
they've
Thank
been
you,
very good.
doggies.
I've been waiting. I promise you, if it wasn't for these headphones on, we would have had a problem because every time I talked, they'd have been pole vaulting over.
I
But
love it.
no, I'm very happy at the moment. But obviously, I really would like to see the industry get back
Sure.
onto the, you know, and like to sing again. You know, I want to sing again, to sing for people. I don't want to do it. I know
Online.
live
No.
streaming is wonderful, but I want to see those people in front of me. You know, so that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
I think you're in a perfect place right now. I mean, you are poised to do something new and fresh, you know?
Well, let's hope.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, the arts are always changing. Things are changing. The world changes. The only thing that's constant is change.
Yeah, well, I always look at that fabulous actress, you know, when I think of the TV series Ab Fab, and I always think, you know, they're still
Doll.
going, and she's older than me, so there's still hope.
Trust me, I'm older than you and I'm still going. So there is
Yeah,
hope.
age is a
Okay.
number. Age is purely a number. That's it.
You know what? It's all about your journey, what you're doing on your journey. I don't care what anybody says. And you also get to a certain point of your life that you just go, I just want to do what I want to do. Stay out of trouble, well, sometimes, but mostly stay out of trouble. I want to see what people are saying. Good night. Thank you, everybody. Rolf from Germany, I wish you a good evening. Good night, greetings from Germany.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
And Ryan says, you're a rock star, superwoman, legend. Love you.
Oh, thank
So,
you, Ryan. Thank you, my darling. Thank you.
he
Oh,
adores
it's
you.
been so nice. It's been, no, he's
Have
my
you enjoyed
superstar.
this?
I've had a
Have you?
wonderful time.
Oh,
My
and I'm
very
so
first,
happy.
my first one, my first online live interview. Oh my goodness.
Bravo, darling.
I'm telling you.
Really? Well, it can
Yeah.
only grow from here. I'm so grateful that you were on the show. I
Thank
love the
you.
show because we just like very chatty and it's not, there's no tightness about the show.
Yeah, no,
And I
exactly.
like that a lot because there's not going to be any weird questions or anything, only because there's nothing really weird. You know, nothing's weird. In this day and age, anything goes.
Exactly. No, it's been wonderful. Thank you.
So thank you so much for being on the show, for being so open about everything about your life. Go out there, enjoy your family, enjoy the kids, enjoy the dogs. There's still so much more for Anne to do. And I really appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you, my sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Cindy. And thank you to everybody who sent in wonderful messages. Thank you, Warren. I just saw your message. Very kind of you. Bye-bye, Cindy. Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody, and good night to all of those lovely people who watch us every week.
Yes.
Please come back again every Tuesday, 7 p.m. We'll always have a good show no matter what. And
Yes.
tonight was a great show. Thank you, my
Thank
love.
you.
Mwah. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.